Just before we start, we have to say something. Good evening, everyone. Uh, Greetings from Bibhaban, India, and good morning to Liz, who are listening here from America. So, with us, Jill Navarre, artistic director of Auroville Theatre. Uh, we are very lucky that Jill agreed to share her view about her theatre experience journey. So during this pandemic time from June, we are trying to interact with people who are uh, doing different art forms practice. So this is our 29th session, and in next is 30 on 20th October, and then our Durga Puja festival will come. So we are in this phase. This is not last, but before the last one. So
Yes.
we are very happy, Jill, and just for few people, just for few things about the people, that please mute your microphone, and after Jill's sharing her view, then
Mm.
you can ask Jill directly, or if you wish, you can write in chat box. I can share to Jill. Jill, now this time is yours, and you can please uh, share or start your
Okay.
journey.
Mm, Great. Yeah, first I have to say, of course, thank you to Supriyo and to his group, Bibhaban, to have invited me to share some of my experiences with this group. Um, Very nice to meet you, and I hope to see you in person sometime when I'm in Calcutta. Um, it's called, I guess you titled it a journey, my journey in theater. So, wow, I'm 73 years old. For people who don't know and keep statistics, so it's quite a long time that I've been in theater. I can I don't know actually where to start it counting, but I can say I my first show was at the age of 8 years old, and I can still remember it very vividly. I was playing Gretel in Hansel and Gretel in my second grade school class. And the experience was very profound, actually, because we were performing this little play in front of my class. And I remember the part of Gretel, I had to sprinkle the breadcrumbs behind us so my brother and I could find our way back home. And that was, I guess, a symbolic journey I've repeated very often in my life, having to find my way home. And it made a profound effect on me because after the show was over, the audience applauded. And I thought, oh, this is nice. You know, this is kind of interesting. They liked something that I did. So I can truly say that was the beginning. Then, of course, I was very fortunate to grow up in New York City, in Brooklyn, and my high school, my junior high school, actually, because in New York, everybody in some way or another knows about or cares about or reads about or sees theater. You know, Broadway is just a subway ride away. So in my junior high, I was involved in a production of The Mikado by Gilbert and Sullivan. I was singing and dancing. And funny story about that performance in junior high, we were a chorus. I was one of the sisters, and somehow we had all these paper umbrellas that we were supposed to twirl coquettishly above our heads. and then in front of us, and my umbrella, I guess I was a little bit too enthusiastic. I pushed it to open it and the umbrella broke. And so what do I do in the middle of the song? So I passed it behind me, and I later found out that the audience was transfixed because they were watching the journey of this umbrella as it made its way through a chorus of about 30 people, back and back and back and back, until somebody pushed it under the backstage curtain. So that was a kind of funny moment for me on stage. Um, so high school, we had a high school which was very involved in theater, and each of the grades was supposed to write and perform their own story. And one of the students who I worked with was actually the daughter of Joseph Papp, whose name at that time was Paparovsky. Her name was Susan Paparovsky. Anyway, so there was some connection. And we played a story with music and dance called The Toy Store. I can still remember that. Anyway, I can reminisce a lot about my school days, but the feeling I got was that performing arts was very important, and it was a bona fide thing to do with your life, which I think for many people in India needs to be told, so that kids feel that if they have a yearning or a passion for theater, that it's not misplaced, that it should be encouraged and supported by family and friends, and it's not something to be embarrassed or ashamed of. But luckily, I had the support up to a certain point. I think one of my teachers advised my parents to let me go to a high school in Manhattan, which is called the High School of the Performing Arts. But unfortunately, or I don't know, fortunately, there my parents drew the line. They said, no, 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 we can't do that. They wanted something safe for me as my career. So I was channeled into teaching. But theater, I guess, was unavoidable for me. It was, destiny. Um, so after high school, yeah, I traveled because I lived for 3 years in Canada in the late 60s. There I was writing poetry. So I was not so much involved with theater, but I was a poet for 10 years. I would say from the age of about 16 to 26, something like that. And I had poems published regularly, and I had a group of poets that I was involved with in Toronto in Canada. And we had a little cafe where we would invite people to come and read on the weekends. So that was sort of a performing art. But I only continued in my theater career when I came back to the US and went first to New York again, and then to Miami, Florida. And in Miami, I started taking classes towards a master's degree in English, and then got caught at the college I was going to, Florida International University. I got caught by a class in playwriting, and it was on my list of things to do as an English major. But it was so strong, and the teacher was so wonderful. I have to mention his name because he was thinking of coming and being part of our evening tonight. So his name is Terry Twyman. He's now living in Memphis, in Tennessee. But he was such a dynamic and forceful and inspiring person in my life that after I started taking this playwriting class, there was no turning back. I don't know how to say it. Most of you who are in theater probably have experienced the same feeling of this is what I'm supposed to do. So you just do it because it's the work that you have been chosen to do. And here you are, and there's no escape, you know. Like they say in Beckett says, one of his characters says, you're on Earth, you're human, you're on Earth, there's no escape from that. So there was no escape for me. I was caught by theater. And in Miami, Florida, I started this class in playwriting. And then I started working. My first professional theater gig, 1977. I was working in the box office of a theater in Miami, Florida. And the play was a musical called Ain't Misbehavin', Black American musical song and dance. Beautiful, wonderful play. Coconut Grove Playhouse was the name of the place where I was working. So there was my first job, my first paying job in theater. And I started working there at the Coconut Grove Playhouse. I worked backstage on strike, which many of you know. You go in after the play closes with your tool belt and you pull down all the flats and you take all the boards and the nails and the screws and you save them for the next show. So that was lovely. I loved doing that. I loved working with my hands and getting into the physical part of theater and the camaraderie. I remember at night after the show closed and we had a lorry full of stuff we would take back to the huge, huge warehouse. It was an old airplane hangar. And driving in the night in the back of the lorry, open cab lorry. I don't know, it was magical. You know, you and the group under the stars and listening to rock and just sharing the whole night. It was very sweet. So I love the tech people. I still do. I feel they're underappreciated part, essential part of theater. So my hat's off to all the folks who do tech, set design, stage design, lighting, sound, musical direction, all those guys who people don't know very well, but who are essential to a good show and creative team. And for me, what's important, of course, is creating a good team. Casting in that respect doesn't only include the actors, but also everybody else. If you have a great team, you can breathe, you know, you can feel supported and encouraged and creative. And if you don't, it's really a struggle. So casting is about 95% of it. And then you sort of get out of people's way and let them do what they do best and encourage them. So I'm a great believer in team building. And when I came to fast forward to India, of course, I took my love for theater with me. And even before I decided to live in Oroville, I had come to visit. My first visit to India was 1987. And India, as an economic, was just opening up economically. And it was a great time of transition, I think, for India. And yeah, something about India, something about Oroville just drew me. I started to stay in Oroville for a little while and a few months the first time, 87, just passing through. but something about the people that I met called me back. And in 1988, I came back to India again, but I went to the West Coast. I went to Kerala. And then finally, 1990, I had a chance to come back again. I'm skipping over my other experiences in America, but before I get to 1990, I should mention that in the 1980s, I was part of a very, very talented group of people called the Sanctuary Theater in Washington, D.C., in the capital. And it was myself and two other people, Michael Oliver and Elizabeth Bruce. We started a theater called the Sanctuary Theater. One fine day, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We wanted it to be a multicultural, multiracial theater company. And we thought there wasn't something like that in Washington at that time. But there were a lot of people in Washington who were from different cultures because it's the capital and it draws a lot of people all from all over the world. So we figured, why not? And we started our company and started casting a lot over across racial, cultural divide. We met a lot of resistance at first. People said, you can't do that. And we said, sure we can. So we did. And that was a great, great experience. I'm still in touch with Michael and Elizabeth. And actually, Michael came to play in a play we did last year called Obediently Yours, Orson Welles, in which he played the lead character of Orson Welles. So I had a chance to reunite with these two lovely people again after many, many years. And our experience in Washington, we found, actually, the first thing we wanted to do was find a home. So we looked around, it was one summer in the 80s, and we found an old church in a rather, what should I say, mixed neighborhood in Washington called Adams Morgan. And the church pastor was very happy that we wanted to come and establish some kind of activity in his church. He thought that was a great idea. So we looked and we found inside his beautiful old church, I think it was a Methodist or a Methodist church, I think. There was an old Tudor hall with one side, they had a small stage and there were seats and there was a balcony which we could use for the booth, sound and the light booth. So that was it. And we spent the summer cleaning it and rearranging stuff. And we got some old seats from a theater in Washington, which they were throwing away. I think it was I forgot the name of the theater now. One very important theater in Washington, which was getting rid of some of their old chairs. So we took them and we installed in Sanctuary Theater. And our first performance was in that fall. I don't know if I say 83 or something, that's close enough. 83 or 84 or something like that. And it was called Jessie and the Bandit Queen. It was a lovely show, very American subject about Jesse James and his love, which is called Belle Starr. And that was our first show. And then we went on from there and we produced our own plays. We also invited other theater groups to come and perform. We had a wonderful opportunity to invite the National Theater Group of Ethiopia to come and perform at our theater, and they did a Chekhov play. I think it was The Bear, if I'm not mistaken. And many years later, here in India, I invited the director of that theater group to come and direct a show here. He directed Shakespeare Twelfth Night. And so we went on, struggling theater people, day jobs in the day, evening in theater. And when I started to travel and I came to India, then, as I said, in 1990, made the decision to stay. And I needed to get a special kind of visa, actually, from the Indian Embassy in Washington. It was called an X visa.
可以讲，说的检讨。
Hello, hi everybody who's joining. Sorry, I'm going on and on and on. So welcome all 22 people. Welcome everybody. Hi Swati. So I'm up to 1990. 1990, what happened? So I came to India and I said, here I am, I'm doing theater. And so I met the musicians and the dancers who were here, and we did a show. I began actually with a play that I had written called Mommy, I'm Home. And that was the first play that I did in Oroville. And after that, on the big stage in the Shurban Auditorium here, which is a lovely, wonderful space, if anybody has a desire to bring a show to Oroville in the future, please contact the Bart Nivas Auditorium team, because they are in charge. It's a lovely semi-thrust stage with about 500 seats, great equipment, super lights and sound, state-of-the-art stuff. So that's a plug for the Shurban Auditorium. So we did Waiting for Godot, my first big show on the big stage there. And that was something. As you know, 4 people in the cast. And
Sorry, yeah, continue, please.
monster play, but a beautiful play, Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. And what do I want to say about that play? It was great to be on the big stage, and the theater, the auditorium became my home for, I don't know, 10, 12 years before some of us got together and decided that the artists in Oroville needed their own space because the auditorium was being used by everybody, including out of station invited artists, of course. And sometimes, unfortunately, in the midst of a rehearsal or some activity, we were bumped when there was people coming from outside. We were asked to vacate, and that became a little bit annoying. So we got together, we said, we need our own space. We artists in Oroville need to create something for ourselves. So we got together a team, and we found an architect, a group of architects in Oroville. Oroville is famous for its architects. And we got a budget. And luckily from the government of India, we got a grant to build what we call CRIPA. And CRIPA, C-R-I-P-A, is a Center for Research in the Performing Arts. Wonderful acronym, luckily, something people could pronounce and even mean something in Sanskrit. So we started CRIPA. And that was a revelation because then we could have more control over our own space and we could use it for our own goals. And so Kripa became my home, very close by. It's only like 10 minutes away. Those of you who live in other big cities, you know what it is to get into traffic and have to go for rehearsal an hour's drive away. Here I can get to rehearsal in 10 minutes. So I'm very spoiled. So Kripa was our home and still is our home. And that's where I do all of my rehearsals right now. Right now, we are in rehearsal for a one-man show called Red Bike. And besides that, we are also doing an online version of a play, which we had to stop in March when the lockdown happened. It's a play that I wrote called A Place Called Home. So we were 2 weeks away from performing, and then the lockdown happened, and we had about 15 people in the cast, and all of the people except one actually went home, scattered back to their native place. And Umair Arar, wonderful actor, graduated from Pondy University, Department of Performing Arts. He stayed on, and we decided to do this one-man show together from a script that I had been sent by a friend in the US called Caridad Stitch. And Caridad Stitch had sent me this play some years ago, but this seemed like a wonderful opportunity simply because it was a one-man show and we could get away with rehearsing in my living room until July, when we could actually go back into Kripa. So this is my 40 years squeezed into, I don't know what, a half an hour of my journey. I can say that I have written plays also, some of which have been performed. A place called Home will be one of them. If we ever get this play finished as a Zoom play, this is what we're working towards actually, because there are still so many restrictions about travel, and so we're doing it on Zoom. And meanwhile, another play I wrote was a modern adaptation of the story of Peter Pan, the classic story by J.M. Barrie. And it was called Peter Pan Lost and Found. And it was a rock musical, which has seen performance in Thailand, because I have friends in a group in Thailand called Moradakmai. And Moradakmai is a theater company and school for the performing arts located in Thailand. It has 3 campuses. And I was fortunate enough to meet the director, artistic director and producing director of their company when they came to India to take part in a children's festival in Delhi. And they came down to Oroville, and they invited me to come back and work with them. And I have been there about 4 or 5 times. Lovely people, very dedicated, very passionate about the theater. And if you have time, you can take a look at their webpage. They're called Moradakmai, which in Thai means new heritage. So they are like an alternative to high school for Thai high school students. And you can choose to go to Moradakmai and learn everything through theater, through the performing arts, music and dance. So I have been fortunate enough to direct plays there with them. I did The Crucible by Arthur Miller in Thai. I did my own play, the Peter Pan play. What else did I do? A play called Like Snow Melting in Water, which was a script written by another American playwright about a story set in Japan. So there have been about 4 or 5 plays I have directed in Thailand. And it's lovely, actually, if you have a chance as a theater person, director, or actor, or designer, to go to another country and work. It's a lovely experience. And what you understand is that theater is an international family. And that wherever you go, if you say, hi, I do theater, you can find your family, your tribe. And it's a universal language. You are amazed if you have never been outside of India, for instance, or if you have been, maybe you've had that experience of realizing that we all know the same theater games, and we all know the same warm-up exercises, and we all know the same vocal exercises. And we may differ, of course, culturally. India has a wonderful old history of teaching the performing arts and working from the Nadi Sastra. And so India is very fortunate in that way to have an ancient history, a profound history of work in the performing arts. But every culture has had to create its own set of rules and conditions. But we all also, because of the internationalization of the performing arts, we also share so much in common. So I would urge everybody and anybody who can to get out there if you can and see what opportunities exist for acting or directing or doing something in Malaysia or Singapore or Thailand, or, start with East Asia if you can, because there's a lot to learn, from your neighbors in the East. And that was my experience anyway. So I have to say thank you to Moradakmai for being able to host me there. It's a lovely place. So I love working with young people. And my theater group, the Oroville Theater Group, usually has a mixture because Oroville itself is an international community, an intentional spiritual community located just north of Pondicherry. For those of you who don't know where I am, I'm actually living in Oroville for the last 40 years. And here we are at Oroville Theater Group. And we have a website, www.orovilletheatergroup.com. So you can take a look and see what we have done over the years. A mixture of plays from India, America, France, other countries. Usually I love text. I love physical theater also. And my work with Sanctuary Theater was very physical, actually. But as a poet, I love a great text. I'm a sucker for poetry. So very often the work that attracts me is the work that involves a beautiful script. And that's why I love Shakespeare in English above all else. For me, working on Shakespeare is an experience unlike any other, except maybe, I don't know, we did Moliere, we did Tartuffe. Shakespeare, I think for me, is the greatest that you can work on in English. So I have directed five Shakespeare plays, and worked as stage manager on number 6, and hope to be able to work through the whole the whole canon. Can you imagine that? At least the tragedies. Let's see what happens, and the comedies. So that's about 20 plays. That should keep me going for a while. So yeah, Shakespeare actually is like, I don't know what to say. It takes you into another place. It is like the text of Shakespeare has a very mantric quality to it. And those of you from India will understand maybe a little bit what I mean. It has you get bedazzled by the language. And also, of course, the stories themselves are so wide and so all-encompassing in scope and feeling. And so, yeah, I would urge you, don't be afraid of Shakespeare. Just jump in, the water's fine. If you get stuck, give me a call. I love to discuss Shakespeare, to work on him. And I'm ready to encourage you, to support you. And also, if you have a play that you would like to work on or to bring eventually, when we're all allowed to do this again, eventually to come to Oroville and work with us, please let me know. Write to me on my email address and or on WhatsApp, and we can have a discussion about that. So a lot of people are writing on chat. Hi, Ashokan, Christ University, welcome. The Facebook group name is Oroville Theater Group. Not very original, but you can find us easily. OrvilleTheaterGroup.com is the website. And the Facebook group is also the Oroville Theater Group, or my own, Jill Navarre. It's actually Navarre. So hi, Sushovan, Ashokan, and other people who are on chat. Upendra was here, Nanda Kumar. Yeah, I think maybe, should we stop there? What do you think?
I think, no, if you wish, we can take questions or anything they want to know from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that will be very good, because it's very interesting that what you say, that the theater is very a family.
Yes.
And in this family, we are all like friends, and we are thinking about uh, how we and our others people live happily.
Yes, I think for me,
This is very,
it was a wish I had, maybe a conscious, to have family and to build a family. I was an only child, so I was always looking for friends anyway. And I was always very happy to have friends around, because as an only child, you get all the attention of your parents, all the good attention, all the bad attention. So as a kid, I grew up wanting to have people around me who I could create something with. And I think that's part of the longing that a lot of theater people have, is to belong to something and to be a part of creating something. My fascination with theater, as I tell people, is you create something out of nothing. And that's such an incredible experience. And I feel so blessed to be able to do that all my life. My God, 40 years of doing this stuff. Can you imagine? I'm still doing it. And I'm one of the lucky ones, I'll tell you, because through all the discouragements, and I had my share and hardship and difficulties, as I tell people in theater, you just keep going, man, just keep going. Don't stop. Once you start a show, just keep going. Don't let anything stop you. Your goal, keep the goal in sight, and you'll get there, one way or another. You'll get there. And if you believe, if you believe in fairies, that was Peter Pan. If you believe that it's possible, then that's half the battle. And so, as a group leader, also as a director, you have to instill that feeling in your group also. No matter what, guys, let's keep going. And I think Liz can tell us about her experience with Midsummer Night's Dream, because she was playing one of the lead parts and she had a terrible accident. And yet she kept going. So she had to play her part sitting down and in a wheelchair. And yet she kept going. And she's, yes, Liz.
It was an office chair, not a wheelchair.
Okay.
A chair on wheels.
A chair on It was an office chair that we rolled her in and around the stage. And miraculously, nobody ever asked me about that. I don't understand why not. Nobody in the audience ever asked me, how come Liz was in a chair a rolling chair with her foot up. It was incredible. I mean, people saw it and forgot about it, I guess.
Well, it makes sense for the Queen of the Fairies to be rolling around magically. It just didn't make sense for the other character, but we made it work.
And we made it work.
We made it work. Commitment.
Commitment, exactly. This is my friend Liz,
Yes,
who is
yes,
from New York,
yes.
and we had the great fortune to have her come and work with us on the Midsummer Night's Dream. So it's great to have you here, all the way from New York City. Can anybody else want to?
Yes, I think there is one guy, Arun Khan Paris.
Aaron, are you there, Aaron?
Arun, can
Yes,
you
hi, I am.
please
I-
share your view directly?
I'm not wearing a shirt. Hold on. I'm just sitting here.
He's in Paris.
very-
He's
I'm in Paris and it's afternoon, but I just did some laundry. One moment.
Aaron, you're such a scene stealer. Now we have to wait for you to put on a shirt. You
All
see?
right.
Okay.
Start video. Hi
Make-
there.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Aaron.
Hello, Jill. This has been wonderful. This is a more chronological monologue of your career than I've had the pleasure of hearing before. I'm glad that this has been arranged.
Yeah. I sort of jumped from moment to moment, but I don't think I left too many people out. Svar, my partner, of course, I have to mention Svar because he's in the next room. And he's been a big part of my journey over the last 22 years. And of course, when you live with a director, there's no escape from theater. So he has been on the stage in almost every play that we have done, and is actually a very good actor, a very fine actor. So I have to mention my thanks for his support, his encouragement, his love. So are you there or are you hiding?
I've seen him with his camera, but I didn't see that he connected to audio, so he might not be able to use a mic.
But he knows the story, so he may not be interested in hearing it all over again. Anyway, I had to
Yeah.
mention him.
I think there is Nimi from Kerala
Yeah, hi, Nimi.
and Upendra. So I think Aran, thank you for sharing your view about India.
Yes.
And so I think there is Swati Mukherjee.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, Swati. You all
Yeah,
can unmute your mics now, guys. Aaron, maybe you want to say something about what you're doing in Paris.
Yes, that will be very interesting.
I mean, what I'm doing in Paris is I'm on Zoom a lot, like most of us. I suppose you mean in the more macro periods.
Aaron and I have known each other since you first came to India, which was many, many moons
Yeah,
ago,
I guess 17 years.
17 years. And he did a show that I produced.
Yeah, I was going to say essentially the premiere of this piece is, I mean, I'd always wanted to adapt this particular text, and I had carried it with me on my first trip to India, but I had two false starts trying to make it happen on my own. And on my first few hours in Calcutta, I met a man who was wearing a sweatshirt, and he was in line to buy a ticket to another place, and none of us were able to get tickets because it was near Christmas time and we were all trying to go south. So his sweatshirt read, "To you, theater is about facing the light. To us, theater is about deconstructing darkness. Yours is the only way, mine is the third way." So I tapped him on the shoulder.
It's on a t-shirt.
It was on the back of his sweatshirt, yeah.
Okay.
And I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, "Is that Grotowski or Boal or what?" And he turned around and he said, "It is Badal Sirkar. Who are you?" And this, like, I had never heard of Badal Sirkar. And then I met Parnab Mukherjee, who was a somewhat controversial artist. A lot of people have their strong opinions about Pornhub, but he did commission this piece from me that I had been wanting to make for a long time for the Delhi International Alternative Theatre Festival he was going to do in a few months. So it was in Auroville that I met Jill and was able to actually workshop the piece and develop it in its first very rough work in progress premiere, but it evolved into a proper production eventually, which came back thanks to Jill and Swar and Auroville Theatre Group to Auroville. So what started there was able to come back in a more fully realized version, which is very satisfying as a maker.
Yeah, remind me what the title was. It was
The Values Americans Live By, A Piece of Theater.
The Values Americans Live By. Yes, and we did it in that office space.
Right. The bigger version with 3 actors and a sort of tech element, we liked to perform in anything that resembled a lecture hall. So we were using a sort of PowerPoint presentation and a conceit of a kind of seminar or conference. Because the source text is a cultural anthropological pamphlet about American values. So yeah, that was at Auroville Town Hall. But the first one was at, is it Verité? Is there a community called Verité?
Yes.
That's where I did the solo in 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. And maybe someday come back, you know.
Please,
Okay.
yeah, there is Upendra. Upendra, can you hear?
Yeah, Nimi was going to say something.
Yeah, Nimi, yes, please, Nimi. Yeah.
Yes, I like to speak something. I have communication problem little bit. Sorry, you can understand or not, I don't know, but I know broken English only. Can you understand, ma'am?
So far, so good, Nimi. Keep going.
Okay. I like to learn acting. But 2.5 months back, I started my acting classes. Wherever contact the Zoom meet or some meeting, definitely I attend that classes. Now I am learning Meissner technique.
Okay.
Meissner technique. I know little bit of Meissner technique. And I like to work with you, ma'am.
Okay. Well,
how
for everybody,
can I join?
Yeah. For everybody who's on who wants to talk to me about working with the Auroville Theatre Group, please write me on WhatsApp or get in touch with me by email. I'll be very, very happy to speak with everybody who wants more information about how to work with us. Yeah, so Nimi, welcome, and find, I will put in the chat, wait, let's see. Okay, so that's my phone number on what,
Okay.
if everybody can see it in chat. I didn't want it just to go to Ashokan. I hope everybody can see it. It says type message here. And sometimes I'm very stupid about this. So I've just typed my WhatsApp number, but it says from me to Ashokan privately.
Okay.
So how do I just put it to everybody? Can I do that?
Yes, Jill, you just have to click on the name Ashokan, and from the drop down, you have to select everyone.
Oh, from the drop down, pop out, it says.
No, you click the name Ashokan, and then it will bring a drop down. And in that one, you can choose everyone, and then post your message.
Again, I'll try this. Can everybody?
Yes, everybody now.
No. Now Ashokan, Mr. Ashokan will work for you. You post anything to Ashokan, he will post for us. Is it right? Is it okay? Okay, Supriyo, I have a question to Jill. Jill,
Please.
yeah, I am so I like surprised, excited, amazing that from 1978 to Journey to Auroville and number of productions and not visibly there, but you are so concretely there in the theater environment. So I'm really gifted, number one. And number two, number two is every Westerner who come to India, they are pulled towards Osho or Aurobindo. These two things always happens. So for me, you have come to Aurobindo.
Yes.
So is there any interconnection between this philosophy of Aurobindo and your theater? Because I always feel there is something inner calling which pulls to a place, and the design of the play and the nature of the work. Nature, design, and the place. These three things plays a main role. But those three things have played a very marvelous role in your professional life. So
Yes.
can you please brief on that?
Absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Upendra. I came to India because of Sri Aurobindo and the mother.
Yeah.
Okay. I came to be in Oroville and to be here because of them.
Yeah.
Because of them, I came and stayed. So it was because of the call.
Yes.
Mother.
Yeah.
And I can remember that I just asked when I went back home after being in India and being in Oroville the first time. I went back to my home and back to Washington, D.C. And then I said, what do I do? Should I go back to Oroville or not? And I had received a very clear message.
No, what was the age and which year?
40, I was at that time, I was 42 years old.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was 30 years. And she just told me that I should go back to Oroville, and she gave me something to do, which I haven't yet done. Embarrassed to say, yet done it. I'm supposed to create a play about her life, about the life of mother, and I haven't done that yet because it's kind of a scary project. But I was called here by Mother and Sri Aurobindo and by the Integral Yoga. So that was the reason I came to India. And I brought my theater with me because Sri Aurobindo has said all life is yoga, and my life is dedicated to theater. And so theater became my yoga. And all of you know that theater is actually a yoga. It's a way, it's a path. It's you have to commit yourself to a certain rigor, a discipline. And once you are on that path, well, some people have turned back, but for me, it's theater and Sri Aurobindo and the mother, because Sri Aurobindo himself wrote plays and poetry, great poetry and great plays. So I wasn't too much afraid of not being welcomed in Oroville because I was doing theater, because Sri Aurobindo himself and the mother herself had written plays which have been performed both at the ashram and also in Oroville. So I feel very welcome in that regard that, okay, Sri Aurobindo wrote plays. He understands the importance of the performing arts as a vehicle for self-expression and for building community and for teaching, of course, for teaching. So this was my work in Oroville, and this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing here. It's my hatha yoga. It's my yoga of work.
Jill, might I dovetail on that, because I get to represent as a Westerner who came to India and was already taken by a guru, Baba Haridas. And interestingly, I think Jill and I share a number of outer body identities as American Jewish expatriate theater yogis and found strangely, yeah, and we found separate gurus who use theater in ways that Jill just described, and I think it's interesting. There are not really that many enlightened beings who also stick to the creation of theater texts during their life as a monk or a guru, and it happens that there are some. But Baba Haridas also wrote a number of plays that were created in elaborate productions by the Mount Madonna Center community in California and Sri Ramashram in just outside Haridwar. And the use of theater began with the use of satsang in that community, meaning the very first activity they did was a production of the Ramayana as soon as he was brought.
Oops. Frozen.
Okay, I think it's something problem. Jill,
Yeah.
I want to know something because
The way it
regarding
builds
to
community
your
and come together in something larger.
there is okay. Please continue.
Ah.
Please continue. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, it said my connection was unstable. I'm just basically seconding everything Jill said about how some spiritual teachers do recognize the perhaps spiritual practice of the live performing arts and how powerful it can be.
Thank you. Jill, I just yeah,
I
can
wanted to say something. Yes.
Yeah, for me,
Okay. Please, yeah, continue. Yeah.
No.
It's interesting you mentioned that for Aaron, because I hadn't thought about it actually as something that not every guru would do, but as you say, it seems to be a little bit unusual for a teacher, a guru, a guide, to choose to express a teaching through theater. So I have to think about Sri Aurobindo in that way. And if you have a chance, everybody, to read at least some of his plays, please do, because they're very beautiful. They're very, I would say, without belittling him, very Shakespearean in their scope, in their dynamic, in their poetic values. And they're worth looking at if you're a director interested in.
Okay, so there is Swati. Swati, can you share? Yes.
Yes, actually, I really wanted to thank Jill a lot because she has really influenced my life in more ways than one. Although I've been doing theater for quite some time and I did learn theater in Calcutta, but I realized that when I was directed by her, that too in Calcutta, it's when we bonded over a lot of things, and that's when I realized that I needed to go to Auroville and do some theater with her and be under her guidance. And I just wanted to share this on this platform today that it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I look at the earliest opportunities. I always wait for the earliest opportunity to go to Auroville and to be with Jill, even if I'm not taking part in the play, but at least, even if I'm not acting, I just being with her, attending the rehearsals, learning the text, and just being with her, that itself is a great learning for me. And I just want to do this as long as I can. And now I'm going to be more relaxed, and I think I'm going to do more of theater now, if I get the opportunity and if I'm able to do it. But
If you are in Kolkata now.
Yes, I'm in Kolkata, sir. I'm in Kolkata.
Okay, great. So
I started my career with Dandikar. That's where I learned my theater from. I did acting workshop with them. Yes.
Okay.
And I did about 1.5 years to 2 years. I was with Gautam Haldar.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to Jill because my husband got transferred to Chennai. And that's when my theater in Kolkata stopped. And I was fully with the Auroville Theatre Group.
Yes, and Swati was playing the lead of Amanda Wingfield in our production of A Glass Menagerie, I should add. And you can see some of it on YouTube if you get a chance, take a look. It was a wonderful production experience I will never forget, of course. And Swati, you and I have to talk about next year, but you have also your own production, your own.
Yes, we started something in Calcutta, but and we did Priyo Pathshala, we did 1 or 2 plays here in Calcutta, but because of the lockdown, now we are really not practicing or anything. But yes, we would like to start again if I can just help them a little bit to, just to, because these are the young artists, they're upcoming, they really want to do something for the society. And maybe because I'm not that great in my Bangla, my Bengali is not that strong or that fluent for me to participate in all their plays, but yes, I would be like a mentor to them, to help them and to guide them.
Yes.
Sure, I would like to do that. And my heart goes out to all the people in theater, especially, and all the performing arts people, because it's really is a difficult time, and we should do all that we can to help them in whatever way it's possible. So yeah.
খুব ভালো। Thank you, Sati.
Thank you, Dada.
Jill, just I want to know, because you are talking about a lot of things, values, good intention, bad intention. So your long journey with theater and um, meeting with people and the definitions of these intentions, because now how you see these things in your life, in your practice of theater, what you think about the intentions and what you think about the values, because it changes when you start doing theater in your young age, and now the values is changes, because now there is something not only for audience, more other journey. It's like a living process now. So how you see this? Can you explain this?
If I understand your question correctly, as you continue on your journey in theater, as you grow into it, into your being, into the fullness of yourself, your understanding deepens. I think your understanding deepens. You'll wonder, and I still wonder, of course. This sense of wonder, this sense of wow, still, it still brings chills when I see great performances, when I hear great music, when I see great dance, because it's not only theater, but all the performing arts that I love. And I try to use music and dance in all of my plays. So as you mature, use that word, although that's the difficult word to define. As you,
Yes.
as you mature, what can I say? It's such a complicated question. You begin to understand where your strengths and weaknesses are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? You begin to value maybe more the collaboration with others. You begin to recognize that what you thought was a limitation is maybe an opportunity. I become more and more optimistic as I get older. I hope that's a good sign.
That is the positive. Yeah.
That's
So there are little ego problem in the group, and the actors, directors, and all in that after your long journey, and then you can see these things. Okay, this will be the not so much important thing. So that is the very important. Yeah.
I am very, very fortunate. I can count the number of ego clashes on one hand that I have ever experienced, or else I'm just gratefully not remembering them. But only 3 or 4 come to my mind immediately. And they can be very scary and very discouraging when that happens. But I try to learn from it. One time, twice, I think, I got threatened by actors, but physically threatened. And you think, oh, I have pushed a button here. Let me back up a little bit, and regroup, and rephrase that. So one guy, yeah, threatened me with he was holding a stick, but he was angry actually at himself because he was an actor who we cast in a play, an adaptation of The Little Prince by Saint-Exupéry, and it was a beautiful play. And he was excited to be a part of it until his agent told him that he had been cast in a film. But he was already committed to our little production, and so he couldn't in the film. And so he was angry at himself more than at me. I took it anyway like that.
Just a little bit to know that as a director,
Yeah.
how you see an actor means what is from where you are feel comfortable. Okay, this is I can do. What is the lines you want from an actor? If you suggest something, because there are many new practitioners who are here, that what they do as an actor, from where they start, or how they see their craft in their life. If you share any kind of view.
Um, hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. You have to have a passion for it. The passion has to drive you through all the other times when you will be first faced by obstacles and difficulties. So you have to throw everything else to the wind, because either you are destined to follow down this long road or not. And if you are not able to sustain yourself with the passion, you will probably not last very long. So it's a kind of passion, I would say, is a kind of stubbornness, you know? It's a kind of willfulness that says to you, I'm going to do this and no one's going to stop me, because I have to create. I have to create. I have to be the vehicle of creation. I have to let creation pass through me. I don't know, any way you want to see yourself. Some people see themselves as the receiver from above of a creative impulse or intuition or inspiration. So however you see yourself as a vehicle, you have to be willing to accept that responsibility of being that vehicle. And along with that responsibility goes, I think, a willingness to create a set of values for yourself, which holds you to what is important as an actor for you. In other words, what values do I have that will sustain me on the stage in theater? What do I believe? So you have to know what you believe also. It's a great inward journey, I must say. Like all the performing arts, I think the journey of the artist is an inward and an outward journey. The outward part is getting on stage, getting parts, learning the lines, collaborating, traveling, being sustained and supported by family and friends and loved ones. The inner journey, each one has to their own, is also the other part of the experience. And I think when you commit yourself to being an artist, and I can remember the exact moment in my young life when I knew, I said to myself, I'm going to be a writer. And I remember where I was standing and I said, I know I will never earn a lot of money. That was that was very important.
This is true, yes.
This to myself. I said, I know you will never earn a lot of money. I was standing on the elevated train station platform in Brooklyn, and suddenly I had this intuition. I know I'm an artist because at that time I was writing poetry. I said, I know I will never earn a lot of money, but I'm an artist and this is what I have been chosen. Well, this has chosen me. And so I have to follow. I have no choice. I have to be what I'm supposed to be. And yeah, once you feel that, well, I had a very good friend of mine who was a poet. And he said, when you had this feeling, he called it getting the bird. When you get the bird, because he was a great admirer of Edgar Allan Poe, and you know, there's a wonderful poem by Poe called The Raven. And he thought Poe had the bird. So once you get bitten by the bird, there's no turning back. So to all you artists out there, make sure that you have been bitten by the bird. I even told, I'm on this Facebook Poetry Society group, and people there very young and very just starting out, and they have all kinds of questions about poetry. And one person said, what word of advice do you have for a poet? And I said, turn back before it's too late. That's my advice. And they didn't know how to take it seriously or not. And I didn't know if I should take. I know Mohit is laughing because he understands what I'm talking about.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would actually, if you allow me, like I would like to add something to it. I met Jill like approximately 2 years back, I think, when you were taking some sessions in that.
Yes.
So I met Jill in an English teaching institution. I was working as a manager over there, and I had left Delhi to become a manager in a small city of an institution. And that was not my, calling. That was not my calling. That was not something that I wanted to do, but I had to do because I've been the eldest member in the family, and I had to make sure that I earn something for my family. But then I realized that I was not following my passion. I have been writing for a long time. 15, 16 years I have been writing poetry, and I wasn't going anywhere. I was just stuck somewhere. And this thought, like when you mentioned that you were standing on that platform,
Yes.
one day I was standing on a platform of the railway station of that city, and I left it for good. I came back to Delhi, and I came back in February, and in October I released my first book. So I realized one thing, that no matter how much time you give to other things, your true calling will always call you, and you'll have to follow it. And you take one step towards it, everything else falls into the place automatically. While we always try to, we always struggle to make ends meet, but when it comes to calling and following it, you just have to take like one step, and everything else will follow automatically. And I really wish I could join Jill into the theater, but I can't leave the city as I have a job, but I am working on my writing passion as well. So
But you're
yes, anytime.
not portable, Mohit?
I'm sorry.
Your job is not portable?
Not really, Jill. It's not possible. I wish I could move somewhere along with that. But yeah, I am, just trying to reach out to people as much as I can. So these days I'm working with the production and writing ads and short films for them. So due to lockdown, my short film could not be produced. It could not be made. But yes, I am trying to, get in touch with people. In fact, it will be really good if any one of you require something for writing. I would love to experiment and write something, because I really want to write. And if somebody can give me like an option for that, I would love to do that. In fact, Jill, I would really look forward to you, and let's see if we can make something together.
Okay.
So, Supriyo, can I speak?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, please, please, please. Supriyo.
Yeah, Jill, it's very interesting. You haven't used any jargons or any names. I was about to ask you, how do you reach the actor? How do you reach the actor while working with them for a play production?
How do you reach what?
Reach the actor in the process of a play production. But I got an answer in a very broader way that you said, I work as a vehicle, right? You said, I work as a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm little curious to know the process, actor training process by you, because even Nimmi has mentioned one name. So like that, number of directors, theater directors, they always hang with the names and the methods which was already freezed or concretized. But you haven't mentioned any names or any such kind of thing. I'm so happy. So I wish to listen from you the process. What is the process and how do you do it? It's I don't know. You are nodding your head.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to say something about this? You raised your hand.
I feel like there was something kind of magical that happened in me being able to play Titania, and I wasn't sure if it was appropriate to share that story. It's really a story. It's not about training, but I'm happy to share that story because I do think sometimes casting is not the way we think it happens. So I met Jill in 2010 when I came to Oroville to look around, and Jill took me. I found Jill because of her love of the theater, and she was somehow online, and I found you. And Jill took her a whole day to take me around to all of the theater spaces in Oroville and tell me about them. And Kripa hadn't even been, I think you'd broken ground, but that was it.
Yes.
And you were telling me about the new space, and it was so exciting. And I at that moment, I had a piece that I wanted to bring to India. And then we just kept in touch on Facebook. And but I don't do Facebook very often. It's usually when I'm in an airport and I have about an hour before my plane takes off or something. And I was in a pretty down spot in I guess it was 2018, like April of 2018. And I was just leaving Colorado back to New York, and I had just buried my brother. And so I was, down. I was down. And somehow Jill and I were both on Facebook at the same time. So we ended up basically just like texting over Facebook. Mm-hmm. And you asked me what I was up to, and I told you that I was working on a show, and that I things were going well. I was teaching, and you said, when are you coming back to India? And my mind was like, oh, that is the furthest thing from my mind. There's so many other things happening. And you said what you were planning on directing. And you said you were planning on directing Midsummer. And I just said, just as a whim, because, as an actor to a director, you rarely just like say what you want. Yeah. And so I said, oh, I've always wanted to play Titania in Midsummer. And Jill typed back, it seemed immediately, yes, let's do that. And I was just stunned, because is this really happening? Is this really how I can go do a character that I've always wanted to play in India and with Jill? And I mean, it was stunning. And to me, it's like a moment where the work that I've done, the training that I've done, the love of Shakespeare, and the willingness to say, I can play that part. I am ready to play that part. Where it turns, and then there's someone who says, yes, let's do that. And then it worked out. And so I don't think always casting is like you come in for an audition. It's making connections. You know, I mean, always. I really believe, and that's what leads to that family feeling when we're doing a show. It's we're building relationships. So that's what I wanted to share. And I'm grateful to you, Jill, for all of our times together. So that's what I wanted to share about casting.
And what an experience you had when you were here. My God. As I mentioned before, she had a terrible accident on stage. Her leg was in a cast. She was such a trooper that she said, oh, yeah, I can do this. And we put her in this rolling chair, this office chair, and the kids loved it because they could roll. All the fairies were played by children, and they could just roll her around on stage. So it became part of the staging for Midsummer Night's Dream. And yeah, that was it. But I mean, I can't imagine, well, I did. I mean, I directed Waiting for Godot with Kane, because I also had an accident when I did my first big play in Orville, and or something. I was in my early years in India, and when India, you know, when you come from abroad, two problems plague you. One is stomach problems, the other is skin problems. So the first 5 years of adaptation, you go through new water, new food, and at that time, 1990, the water and the food were not so safe as they are now. So I developed a very bad skin problem. So I was being taken back and forth to rehearsal on the back of somebody's motorcycle, I can remember, with my cane. But yeah, somehow the idea of stopping doesn't occur to you. It's not an option. No, not an option. So Upendra, your question was about the gurus in my life who I admire, I think, you know.
Yeah. In connection to theater as a director, yeah.
You know, I don't follow any particular way. I know several of them. I am acquainted with Sanford Meisner. I'm acquainted, of course, with Stanislavski. I love Grotowski. I would say maybe closest to my own personal philosophy of theater. And if you don't know his seminal work, Towards a Poor Theater, shame on you. You should know it and have it in your library and keep it near your bedside and put it under your pillow. Towards a Poor Theater was one of the books I've been carrying around for the last 40 years. So Grotowski is one of my gurus, I would say. And actually the fellow from the Sanctuary Theater in Washington had a basis in physical theater, what he called, now if I can remember, all not encompassing theater, but now I forget the phrase that he used, where you use the whole space as your theater and not just the stage. So that attracted me a lot. And we did a lot of plays.
Immersive?
Not immersive, it was another word. Use the whole space so that you played not just on the stage, but in the house and, you know, outside and in unusual spaces. And that kind of theater attracted me. So I would say the years that I spent working with Sanctuary Theater helped me to appreciate physical theater and what physical theater could offer to an actor and to a director. So I continue to do that. And I would say if I had to name somebody, probably Grotowski would be the one that I would hold the highest. But of course, he was influenced by Stanislavski and by Mayakovsky and others. What's his name? Michael Chekhov, of course, is another great, great teacher. Michael Chekhov, To the Actor. If you don't know that book, please do know it. It's called To the Actor, and by Michael Chekhov, who was a nephew, I think, of V. Chekhov. And he's another great teacher. And you know, once, also lately, Annie Bennett, what's her name? From City Company. Oh, come on, help me, Liz.
Bogart, I think. Anna Bogart. Anne Bogart.
Yes, Annie Bogart.
Annie Bogart. Yeah, Annie Bogart.
Thank you.
But
Annie
and Mary.
And Mary, yes, and Mary. Both have written wonderful, wonderful books, which I have on my table in the living room, and which I always refer to.
Yeah.
So these are people whose work I respect and admire, and I dip into those books from time to time as well. All of them, the thing I love about these people is their practicality. They usually in their work, in their books, have great exercises for actors to do. So they actually offer you very practical suggestions, like how, especially Meisner, of course, his work is his theater games. So these, and then I have sort of absorbed them, digested them, and I use them. But it's been a long time, it's been 40 years. So I don't anymore, well, what should I say? I use the best of what I've learned from all of these people, but I don't rely on one particular, except maybe Tolsky a little bit. Yeah.
Jill, thank you again. We are in the time. Just to few words. The word which is the title of this discussion, my journey with theater. So precisely for the 40 years and your 72 years of life. So how you describe this line just in a few words, and then we will finish this session, and we will meet again after this pandemic, hope in the real. And there are a lot of questions in my mind, but I just want to hear you from this thing.
Yes.
How you see this line?
First of all, I have to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to come and be a part of this discussion. It was wonderful to catch up. I mean, I feel like I have an opportunity to catch up with old friends and to meet some new ones. And please, again, for those who didn't get a chance to speak to me, please see me on the WhatsApp or on the Orville Theater Group Facebook page, and we can continue to speak. I can't imagine life without, I would say, without the performing arts, because theater for me is music and dance as well. It's not just theater, it's not just acting. So we have all in this horrible period found ways to continue our work and to inspire each other and support each other. The theater community comes together in times of, and we all recognize that we're all in the same boat. So I thank you all in your own ways for being there and continuing the work that you are destined to do. And I hope that I have an opportunity to work with some of you, to meet you in person when we can do that. And I invite you all, please, to get in touch with me and to see if we can find a way to work together. Again, in the case of Liz and Swati. And
Yes, Jill.
for many of you, I've already in my head have 2021 season in my head. So that is, I'll tell you what it is. After the one-man show, of Red Bike by Caridad Switch, which you hope to perform on the stage auditorium in January, and which we're going to release also as a video, which we're now working on. Then I want to do Equus by Peter Schaffer. Liz's eyes opened up. Yeah, there's a couple of roles in that play.
I'm already reading it. You told me to read it in Chennai, so I'm already reading it.
Okay, Equus. Then I want to do the Elephant Man. Elephant Man also has a part for ladies, a beautiful part actually. And then I want to do the Scottish play. I want to do the Scottish play. So that's my fantasy, my season. If anybody is interested in any of those plays, please get in touch with me. I'm a director, I need actors. So let me know. And thank you all for listening to my monologue about my journey. I hope I haven't left anybody out in my thanks in this 40 years. But see you on the stage.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jill. Take
Thank
care.
you, Jill.
Lots
And it's
of love. Take care. Love you, Jill.
enriching and inspiring.
Thank you so much, Jill. Thank you.
Welcome.
And thank you everyone who are
Thank you,
in this
Dada.
session. Please, if you have time or if you're in Facebook, please follow our page. And love from Bibhaban, Jill. Be happy, be steady.
Yes.
And hope Upendra, me, we are planning to meet in real and maybe visit your space together. So this is we are
Dada,
thinking.
your Facebook page is Actors Workshop?
No, it's Bibhaban, the experimental theater company. You can find
Sure,
it.
sure.
Thank you again, Jill. Be happy and be
Thank
inspired
you.
like this.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jill.
Bye, Jill. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriyo. Thank you, Jill.
Stay